Winter is coming, and this time it doesn't threaten us with anything, but rather it invites us to a game with splendid art, fluid gameplay, and lots of moving parts. Hello everyone and welcome to Ollie Plays A Lot. My name is Ollie, and in today's Before You Pledge section of my channel, we will take a look at Endless Winter Paleoamericans, a competitive mid-weight strategy game for 1 to 4 players designed by Kordonskiy, Jonny and Villareal, illustrated by Mico and Yoma, and soon to be published by FANTASIA games. Keep in mind that the components you see here are from the prototype version of the game, and although they look phenomenal, and if there was a prize for the best looking prototype, Endless Winter would definitely win it, the art and the components might differ in the final version of the game, so you better check out the Kickstarter page to see what the designers have in plan. Without going into details, I would like to give an outline of the rules so you get an idea of how the game plays. In Endless Winter, you are leading one of the 4 Paleoamerican tribes. In each turn, you place one figure, either the chief or one tribe member, on an action column of the main board and perform the associated actions from top to bottom. These actions can be performed multiple times by feeding your people and or by sending tribe members with them. These actions vary from employing new tribe members and burying cards, gaining culture cards and building sacred stones, migrating with your camps and enacting villages, or hunting wild animals. Each tribe member is specialized in a certain action and can perform an action during the eclipse, which happens between turns. By burying cards, you can get rid of cards that are not as beneficial to you, such as basic tribe members. Don't worry, they will be remembered. Culture cards give you extra actions, from which you can perform a maximum of 2 at the beginning of each turn. Sacred stones grant you endgame scoring opportunities. Snatch the ones that give you the most points or the ones your opponents are aiming for. I call that Ice Age cold backstabbing. By migrating on the terrain board, you spread your influence and set yourself up for some sweet eclipse bonuses. And finally, when hunting, you can capture and later kill wild animals to amass meat, which will later come in handy when performing actions on the main board. After a player has placed his third meeple, he can now prepare his eclipse pile in secret, and a new player order is decided for the next round based on the number of labor points in the eclipse pile. Players then take the eclipse bonuses, which are comprised of main and player board actions, the eclipse actions on the player tribe cards, and finally the terrain board bonuses. Repeat this 4 times, count everyone's points, and whoever has the most is the new Ice King. Endless Winter is a fruit salad of mechanisms which blend together smoothly. There is deck building, worker placement, area majority, endgame bonuses, set collection. Let's quickly go through these. Each player begins the game with the same starting hand, to which throughout the game culture and tribe cards are added. Unlike in other deck builders like Dominion, Clank or Hogwarts Battle Defense Against the Dark cards, at the end of your turn you don't refill your hands to 5 cards, but rather do this only at the beginning of each round. One round is comprised of 3 turns, so you have to cleverly puzzle together your cards with the actions that you take. The worker placement part of the game is done on the main board and on your player board. The 4 action columns are divided into 3 sections, from which the bottom one can be performed only by the first player to choose that series of actions. These one-time actions are powerful and can be done without spending any resources. This means that you will often have to reconsider which column to send your worker to, because there might be an action you want to take, but there is a sweet bonus left in another column from which you might benefit on the long run. Another option you have is leaving your figures on your player board so that it prepares for the eclipse phase. Speaking of the eclipse phase, whoever has the majority in each segment of this modular terrain board can perform the associated action, placing a megalith, advancing on the offering or honor track, gaining tools, food, or points. The tiles you select to prepare the terrain differ based on the player count. In a 4-player game, there are more useful areas and less glacier tiles than in a 3 or 2-player game. This way, players are always incentivized to fight for the best spots. The last 2 mechanisms are set collection, you earn points for sets of captured animals, and endgame bonuses, which are earned individually based on the build's sacred stones. Moving on to game length. Endless Winter is quite a long game. Each of the 3 sessions I played took me more than 2 hours to finish. even in 2 players. Now I have to admit, me and my wife are probably the slowest playing couple ever. We always take our time, talk about non-game related stuff, discuss strategies, and even help each other out when we get stuck. So you could probably finish a 2-player game in an hour and a half. If the length didn't bother me, the downtime was one of the cons of the game. Although your turn consists of 2 maximum 3 steps, playing culture cards, performing a column of actions, and preparing the eclipse pile, there are a few things that each player needs to consider in their turn. Which action to take, which figure to send, how to efficiently combine their cards with the actions, and so on. There is little interaction between the players, so on other players' turn you just stare at your cards, which are gorgeous by the way, and wait for the others to say, okay, I'm finished. So the bottom line is, the game seemed to be dragging in a 4-player game, and this is why I wouldn't consider a full player count, but rather a 2-3-player game. Now, another iffy thing I noticed is that in a 3-player game, the first player has the option to perform 2 of these bonus actions because there are 4 columns, 3 players, so 1 is left over in each round. I do get it that players can influence who gets to be the first player in the next round, but I thought it's worth mentioning because my gaming group brought this issue up. Endless Winter is the lucky case where the theme and the mechanics go hand in hand. In the game's official Facebook group, Stan Kordonskiy, the lead designer of Endless Winter, answered my question about which came first, theme or mechanic, and said that at a certain point, the mechanics and the theme became so interdependent that he cannot imagine this game functioning as any other theme. He thinks he would have to change about 60% of everything to retheme this properly. Your actions, the names of the cards, the illustrations, the animals you hunt, the iconography is thematically infused and helps you immerse in this Paleoamerican Ice Age world. The game has a great replay value. The terrain board is modular, there is a chunky stack of culture cards, there is a good variety in the sacred stones, and this megalith board can be arranged in 8 different ways. And on top of that, there are a lot of strategies a player can try out because there are a lot of things that you can earn points for and you don't have to excel at everything to win. The asymmetric chief cards give players a bit of direction. Some excel at hunting, some are good at crafting, while others give a helping hand when you migrate. Add the asymmetric starting player setup to this, and you again have more replay value. Although I haven't played with the expansions, their description is quite promising, so I advise you to check them out on the Kickstarter page. The first image I saw of Endless Winter back in March or April made me interested in the game, which is illustrated by the one and only Mico, an artist I cannot praise enough for his signature art style. Even this prototype copy looks fantastic, and I'm sure that the final version will bedazzle us. There is a lot of iconography in the game, but luckily everything is easy to understand and to memorize, so after a few rounds you get used to things and don't even need a cheat sheet, although a better player aid would come in handy. Although I cannot talk about the quality of the final version, based on how premium everything feels in this prototype phase, I have high expectations. As you can see, this game has a huge footprint, and I needed all my Tetris skills to fit everything on this small IKEA table. There are 5 different sections: the modular terrain board, the main board, which I hope will be 4-fold in the final version of the game because I dislike puzzle boards. Under it you can find 3 rows of cards, then there's the megalith board, the honor and blessings track, and then you have the hunt area. Add 4 personal boards and leave space around them for cards, and you kind of need a bigger table. My only concern with games of this size is that players cannot see what's happening on the other side of the table and tend to concentrate only on actions which are closer to them. Luckily the problem can be solved by placing this main board in reach of everyone, because this is the place where the majority of actions happen. And here I would like to point out that a playmat compatible with every expansion is included in the Chief Pledge level, or it can be purchased as an add-on. This will definitely help in organizing the game and allow players to easily pick up the culture cards from beneath the board. Endless Winter is a midweight Euro which I want in my collection because of the well-executed theme, gorgeous art, great mix of mechanics, and because my wife loved it. She's pledging for this one, okay? The game builds up nicely, and as you gain culture cards and berry cards you don't need, your hand becomes better and better, and you can perform 2 actions from the culture cards and the column of actions on the main board. There are many paths to victory. Yes, your chief might nudge you to take a direction and perform the action he is good at, but in the end it's your call. I enjoyed that there was no take that element in the game, but you could screw others' plan up by hunting down an animal they were aiming for, snatching a sacred stone before them, reaching the top level of the Under track first, or occupying the best spots on the megalith board. If the prototype speaks for the final quality of the game, we will have a deluxe game with truly deluxe components. Minis, which I personally am not a fan of, but that will help the cheat figure stand out, screen printed tri-figures, double layered player boards, a large variety of beautifully illustrated culture cards, and so on. The only con of the game is the downtime, which is why I don't recommend the 4-player game. The bigger player count didn't seem to add anything to the experience, only made the game longer. Now, you also have to keep in mind that I was the only constant in the 3 plays I had, and everyone else played it for the first time. After a few plays, this downtime might become shorter, and the 3 and 4 player game might become more enjoyable. So if you love midweight Euros with great themes, splendid art, quality components, if you enjoy deck building and worker placement and want to see how these two blend together, I do think you should check out Endless Winter Paleoamericans because it might be the title you were searching for. My name is Ollie and I'm glad that we spent another Before You Pledge episode together. Keep in mind that the campaign for Endless Winter is still running, so if it seemed like a title you and your gaming group would love, make sure to back it on Kickstarter. If you enjoyed today's content, make sure to give a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. See you on the next episode. Happy gaming!